We have some new merch in the merch store. That is right. I have some brand new hoodies because it's fall. It's getting cold out there, and all that wind, you got to cover up the skin. We've got some brand new hoodies over at the official Nathan Morris store. That's me at nathanmorris.store. The link is in the description and show notes. Grab you one of them berry delicious ones. Remember the guy that would do the berries and cream, berries and cream? I love that commercial, and I love our new merch. A big thank you to each and every single one of you who checks it out. All available right now at the official Nathan Morris store, nathanmorris.store. And speaking of merch, did you know that if you become immortal, not immortal, but immortal, because we are not promised tomorrow. We only have a finite amount of time. What are you going to do with yours? That's what this community is about. Exclusive music drops, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and of course, giveaways each and every Friday for members of the Mortals, and of course, major discounts, discount codes. So remember the Berry Tea. No, it's a hoodie. The Berry hoodie, yeah, you can get that on discount. Becoming Immortal right this second. It's in the description. Don't have FOMO. Yo. That's ridiculous. You know what's not ridiculous? Showing up. Thanks for that. Thanks for being here. This is episode 206. I'm back at it, and I am in the saddle. On the saddle? Is it in or on? And I'm glad that you are as well. How can I expect you to show up if I'm not showing up to this, the Mortals podcast, the show which pulls back the curtain and takes down these walls brick by brick and exposes the hearts of those caring for those. And that's what we're put here to do. Selfless. Serve you over self. There's so much gratification in that. There's so much happiness in, like at Christmas time. Maybe you don't celebrate Christmas, but when you give a gift at a birthday, maybe you don't celebrate birthdays. Are there groups of people that don't? Well, probably. When you give a gift, when you give of your time or of your talents, you leave with the warm and fuzzies. It's a real thing. That's what we're put here to do. If you're able to apply that to all things, there is this sense of purpose that you feel. And boy, do I feel a sense of purpose, because I'm going to tell you right now, I might have to cut this out, but I'm going on tour. I'm going on tour in February. I've been talking about it for quite some time. And the Mortals found out first, so be sure to become immortal. They get the first of everything. But I'm going on tour. I'm going on tour in February to Germany. I am opening for Wiz the MC. Dates are posted. Click in the description. Grab tickets if you're in Germany. Or maybe you want to fly on a plane right over the pond there. Well, I don't know that would be very economically sound and or smart to do, but be sure to stay up to date. You can follow me on all the socials so you'll know when I'm touring in your area. But we've been talking about it for a long time, logistics and all these different moving parts and pieces so that this could happen. And I want to say thank you to my team, everyone who's been supporting this process. It's been a long road. I've had the show built for quite some time. I've been rehearsing and practicing and sharpening my craft, my tools, my vocals, and pushing myself and becoming better at everything from mental to physical to emotional, everything. And I don't know that I would have been ready. Obviously, I wasn't ready. That's why I wasn't on tour. And that leads me to my next thing, which is, of course, we have the single to be excited for that releases Friday the 11th. Pre-save it. If you have not, you're telling the algorithm, the algorithm that you love it. And that would mean a lot to me. And that is exciting. The story last week was talking about white knuckling. When you white knuckle shit, it just turns to that. And if you just go with it, go with the waves, i.e. not being so stressed about, oh, I'm not on tour yet. Been talking about it, but it also taught me a lesson. yeah, dangling a carrot is what I've been calling it. And you can call it that, and it really can be that. Or I read this quote where it was talking about, like, don't talk about what you're working on. Which defeats the purpose of the mortals to a degree, but that's this community of a closed door. It's almost like a private get together of closest of confidants. And those who have joined the mortals, they are that to me. And I'm able to share that. But generally speaking, saying, oh, I'm doing this or I'm doing that while you're working on it and it's not happening, or you all don't see that happening, it could look as if they're blowing hot air and smoke up your ass. I mean, I get that and understand that. So I understand and agree with that quote to a degree. Don't talk about what you're working on. I have to be more mindful of that, because I don't want to come off as if, because there have been this profession, the creative in me, the artist and the podcast and all these brand deals and everything that are coming at me or possibly coming at me, or it's on the way, and you're just at the mercy of them. You take their word, you take that, and you're like, okay, well, it's happening. And then you're just waiting. And then maybe you told people, maybe you've been excited to announce something. Maybe you got trigger happy and you're like, this is going to happen. And then it doesn't, or seemingly doesn't, to someone else. And you're like sitting there. It could just alter someone's perception of, which again, having perspective is far better, because then you're able to see the world differently. And anyway, I need to be more mindful of that. So I've learned a lot of lessons, is what I'm getting at, is this season of, hey, this is happening. Maybe next time, just I look forward to going on tour again, or I'm going on tour again. But then isn't it also this thing of like manifestation too, right? Maybe there's something really cool and I'm going on tour, because I am going on tour. And back then I was going on tour and we were talking about it, and I was very positive about the fact that I would. What are your thoughts on that? I would be interested to know. You can always let me know and reply to this podcast, whether it be on a social platform, or you can let me know what your thoughts are there. And be sure to give this a lovely review too, wherever you stream it. I would be very grateful for that. I would love to hear from you. But it's going to happen. We'll be on tour with Wiz the MC in Germany. Dates will be posted. You'll be able to see that. And I need to remember and make sure that their team and everyone has announced that already. And I've been permitted to announce it, because otherwise this entire part of this podcast will be cut out. Oops. Obviously, if you live in the United States, Hurricane Helene, is that right? Helen with an E at the end, has devastated many parts of, especially the North Carolina areas of, I used to travel 40 East all the time. I think it's 40 East. Maybe it's, Highway 40, Interstate 40. There's a portion of it's just demolished, and they said it's going to take forever. So they're already talking about alternate routes. And just think about how things affect so many people, like the truck drivers across the country. There was women and men, spouses of, family members of, are talking about and showing these maps with the updated route to get to where they normally would get to traveling the Interstate 40 that's now shut down, and it's adding hours to their trip. We don't think about that kind of thing and all the people who are affected. So lifting at this moment right now, God bless everybody that is affected by this hurricane in the aftermath. But if you don't live in the United States of America, we name hurricanes by boys and girls' names, and we rotate and we go through the alphabet, I think is how it works. And Helene, Helen with an E, Helene, Helen, people say it all different ways. I'm saying Helene. It just demolished Florida. They're like the stepchild that just pops right back up after just getting annihilated. They're like too small for the D line, and they go out anyway and just get pummeled, and then they just pop back up and they're ready for the next game the next day. I mean, the sun's shining the next day. Now, obviously, there's devastation. They're just pulling boards off windows, and I'm like, oh, that's nothing. What's for lunch? And then you have all the devastation in North Carolina, I'm sure other places, but in Kentucky, for instance, there's just this weather. I'm over here talking like a meteorologist. There was this rain that was just circling over the state of Kentucky. It rained for, it felt like 5 years, but it was 3 or 4 days. And it's amazing how things affect us. Like the weather. You look out the window and it's dreary and gray and you're like, I'll take a nap. But I did it. And that is interesting because of all of the different things that we're able to learn all the time. I'm always applying or thinking, oh, wow, there's a lesson here. There's a lesson here. And maybe that's my being optimistic. But I was looking out the window on the last day. So it was like 2 days ago, I believe, maybe. And I remember I want to take a nap. No, Nathan, don't take a nap. This is when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Get to work. And I did, instead of napping, which I wasn't tired. I wanted to be lazy and worthless, I guess. But I overcame that, and I'm proud of that. Are you one of those people that's always mindful of opportunities to learn and grow? Or do you find yourself to be a little bit, and that's okay. It might be just the season that you're in, because it's been I haven't always really thought this way, and it's only been for the past 16, 18 months that I really have been diving in, which this is, before we get to that though, we'll talk about that. I want to talk a little bit about something that I was made aware of while working and scrolling through one of the socials. And by the way, be sure to follow me on all of those. They're linked in the description, but social media can be a beautiful thing. Obviously, you can get into that doom scroll mentality, but I use it a lot for whether it's finding content that I want to either duet or mirror in some way or inspires me. And this was a piece or a content piece that really, it put a lot of what I've been experiencing personally. I was like, wow, this really hits, because I hadn't talked about it. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. But I do want to, a couple of things, want to say a big thanks to Descript. It is the whole reason that I get this podcast episode and every episode to you. It is the way in which it sounds so good. It's a very incredible and impressive platform. You can check it out in the description, but Descript gives you the opportunity. Maybe you need to start a podcast, because if you have a business, a brand, a service, a product, you need to have a podcast, because people like to listen to you talk. And right now, if you click the link there, you're able to learn how incredible it can be for you, because I'm certain I don't know a ton about stuff. I mean, I have nice things, microphones and equipment, but I'm not a tech nerd about things. And that's okay, because Descript takes out all the guessing there with studio sound and edits for clarity, and you're able to create clips of your podcast. It cuts out all of your filler words like the ums and the ers and the mess ups. It's transcription based editing, and you have your AI eye contact, because maybe you can't think off the top of your head right now, because it is a little bit nerve wracking to put your face in front of a microphone and a camera and talk. But heading over to Descript right now, clicking the link right there, that's a way to really get that started. I didn't turn my phone off. See, I could cut that out, but I'm not going to. Yeah. I'm grateful for them. This is part of the podcast where we're starting something new. Last week I started it, just random facts. I love random facts. I think it's amazing. You came here for the random squirrel moments, probably. You came here for spooky stuff, which we'll get to that. And you came here for authentic storytelling. And so we're going to touch it all. But I want to tell you about the middle child. Do you know why? Because that's who I am. I'm the middle child. And it is a real thing. And also, not to talk about astrology, but I'm not gonna. Podcasters, streamers, content creators, are you listening? Are you tired of juggling multiple platforms to reach your audience? Well, I've got the perfect solution. It's Restream.io. With Restream, you can stream literally all of your streams to all of your favorite platforms at once. Facebook, yep. Insta, yep. YouTube, Twitch, and more, all at the same time. Imagine that, the peace of mind, the reach, and without breaking a sweat or having any type of tech skills. Plus, with Restream Studio, you can host interviews, share your screen, and even add your branded graphics, all from your browser. No fancy tech degree, no fancy setup needed. Whether you're streaming your first funeral home story, of course, or you're dropping your next hit single, A Minute More releases October 11th, that's my song, Restream's got your back. Are you ready to level up your stream? You should be. Click the link right now in the description or visit restream.io/studio-Nathan to get started today. Seriously, you'll love it. The crystals. No. Middle child syndrome is a real thing. They're often stereotyped as feeling overlooked or stuck in the middle between their older and younger siblings. This is referred to as middle child syndrome. Not every middle child experiences that. I've never met a middle child that's never felt that way. I feel that way. Woe is me. Middle children are most likely to be peacemakers. Does this apply to you? They're often developing strong negotiation skills and tend to become the peacemakers in the families, and they're mediating disputes between siblings and balancing family dynamics. I think that I am a negotiator. Peacemaker, I am anti-confrontational. So I don't know if that applies to being a peacemaker. Peacekeeper, like I keep the peace by being anti-confrontational. Making the peace, I don't know if that's the same thing. Since the oldest child gets more responsibilities and the youngest is pampered, John, not having to mow the yard ever, middle children may develop a strong sense of independence. They're used to figuring things out on their own. That is fact. Studies have found that middle children compensate for feeling overlooked at home by developing strong social circles outside the family. They're more likely to value friendships. That's very true. That is very true. And social connections, which actually brings me to, after those useless, weird facts, to what we're going to talk about today. Friendships. And I had always been told that divorce, for instance, is more painful than death of a loved one. Arguable, of course, because that's someone's opinion. A lot of people have said that, and no one ever talks about the death of a friendship and the grief that comes with that. This girl was gracious enough to post on social media her story, and it popped onto my For You, and I watched this 6-minute video of her talking about her childhood best friend and all of the things that they would do together and how incredible and intertwined and intricate their relationship was and how beautiful and how they had all these incredible memories. And there's not a memory without, and it's over. It's gone. And I sat there and didn't scroll to the next video and muted my phone and just reflected. I know that because I grew up hearing this, you can count on one hand how many friends, true friends you have, and have fingers still left over. Fingers, I said. Fingers still left over. Because as an adult, it's really hard to make friends in your 30s and 40s and probably 50. I mean, it's the thing is in your 20s, in your teens, in your 20s, it's how many can I have? How many of everything can I have? I want all the friends. I want all of the followers. I want all of the snaps, and I want my notifications to give me a stroke because they won't stop. And then in the 30s, it's it's hard to really have them even set off a notification, because friends are displaced. They move with their family or relocate because of a job, and you stay in touch with them via socials and technology, and that's great. But you can count on one hand and still probably have some fingers left over. In this instance, it's so true. You know, you work so hard to get people to like you. For me, in high school, and you have all these people that are acquaintances, but you call them your friends, and people loosely throw around best friends. And this is one of those instances where my life for decades has included my entire life has included this dear friend, and they experienced and witnessed every version of me, the 17-year-old dumb Nathan, the starting to figure stuff out Nathan, the adult dad Nathan, the you're being an idiot Nathan, to holy shit, you are a dumbass Nathan, to what the hell are you doing Nathan, all of these. And they're a part of all of these moments. I mean, weddings and groomsmen's and bachelor parties and touring and roommates and figuring it all out, or trying to. And this individual, it was a perfect setup. And if I sound like it's funny, but as a heterosexual male, the way that I talk of this friendship is like it's just such admiration for, I mean, polar opposites. Like, just absolutely on the North Pole and the South Pole, the spectrums are wide. They're introverted and recharged by being alone. I need to be around people. I am knee-jerk and let's do this, and huge, massive ideas, and they're calculated and they're slow to make the decision because they want to look at it from every single angle. They are far more reflective and quiet, introspective. And there's this argument that there's no way that you all are friends. And thick as thieves we were. And, you know, the joke is women would talk on the phone anytime they can, you know, just to talk. And I hate talking on the phone. But, you know, we would talk on the phone. And the best advice, selfishly, you know, I would get that. And the death of a friendship is a very painful death, a very painful experience. And it's not something I've ever experienced before, because in your even teenage and young adult years, people, if you can think of friends right now, it's almost like they just fizzle out, right? Not that they weren't important, but the realization and the growth as a human, you grow out of a friendship, a relationship, a space, a place, and it might still have tenderness maybe, and you're like, oh, I miss whenever I would be able to go and get a smoothie with them or coffee, and I'm not downplaying that or dismissing those feelings, but as an adult, to have the young you, the young adult you, the adult you, and your best friend in every way is a part of that. And they've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and vice versa. And yet you all still show up for each other. And when life happens and that's no longer the case, it's not a fizzle out. It's not a fade out and it's like, oh, it's fine. Because it's like this, I can't think of a memory. You know, if I go back to playing football at Owensboro Catholic High School, yes. But as a 17-year-old, a graduate, and moving forward, I can't think of a memory without them, without my friend. They've been a part of everything. And even the songs that you stream and listen to, and thank you for that. And you can stream all of this music that I'm super proud of. And I've told you about the new single that releases October 11th. We wrote that together. I can think of no more intimate, next to physical intimacy, than writing a song with someone. And there's only a few people that I've been able to do that with. And he is one of those. It's going into this room and being like, oh, well, I feel this and this and this. And it's exposing your journal, your heart, your guts to someone. And as a man, obviously being vulnerable has been shown as and said to be weak or gross or whatever. Maybe not so much anymore. And that's not but being able to say, oh, here are my vulnerabilities. Here's what I'm thinking. Maybe even, you know how whenever you come up with ideas, you and your friends are talking about, maybe one day you're like, let's start a business and it's this and this. And you almost think or speak before you think. And then you're trying to pull it back and you can't put the words back in because you say something stupid. Do you know how that feels? Taking that in a songwriting session and putting that out there, but not having this feeling of pulling it back and being like, oh, it was dumb. I don't want to say that. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't judge you. They accept you. And it's a very special, private thing, because what the song is and has become is not what was being kicked back and forth. There's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of maybe tripped words. Maybe there was some emotion. And they are able to sit there with you in that. And that's this individual. So you have all these beautiful moments. You have all these things that we share and do and talk about and support one another through. And then this video from this lovely lady showing up to tell the story, it popped me right in the gut, because that's what I'm experiencing still. The death of a friendship and like the hope for or the longing for, that sounds pathetic. And that's a moment right there where you want to pull it back in, but you can't. And I'm not going to. I'm going to intentionally leave that. It's the longing for what was, the hope for that maybe just maybe, not for any particular reason, other than you just aren't aligning. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but you want to make sense of why it's not the way it was, or what happened in this friendship, and you miss it. And being an adult, especially if you are being very intentional, honest with yourself, you acknowledge where you faulted or where you were wrong, and you accept that. And I've said it before in other podcast episodes or everywhere that I get an opportunity, I will not continuously serve a penance, right? You can't just beat yourself up all the time for your wrongdoings. And that was in no way, that was just a separate thought, I guess. So it's sitting in this reflective state. You acknowledge what you did, you accept it, responsibility. And I don't know where I'm going with that. I mean, obviously, my friendship, the dearest of friendships, its dissolution, had elements of things that personally I must take responsibility for, right? And so that's where maybe I was going with that. And you have to reflect on where you are and your level of involvement, participation, or lack thereof, and the responsibility that comes with that. You have to accept that. And, the past year of going through this, the death of a friendship, has been a challenging one. Because do you have a friend that you pick up the phone and you text all day, every day, or you talk on the phone a couple of times, or he or she is the one that you get advice from and that absolutely feel that they can call you or ask you the same? It's this equal, or that doesn't exist anymore. And there's a short phase of trying to figure it out. There's this short phase of maybe if I do this, or I want to do this, or I want to fix it. And then there's this long phase of grief, acceptance. It's literally the 5 stages of grief. And the longest has been I don't know. I don't know what the longest has been. I think it's still a very active thing for me. And in acknowledging that this is what I've been experiencing, I just haven't articulated it. I've been quietly experiencing it. It would behoove me to not share in that journey with you, because I am certain that maybe you too are experiencing it or have. And you can absolutely relate to the grief that comes with the loss of a friendship that you absolutely appreciate and admire and feel to have been blessed with. I was given a book by my friend Curtis, and the book is called The Art of Holding Space. Story time. I want to tell you this story about how I learned the hard way that not protecting your passwords is a disaster waiting to happen. I'm juggling music, funeral homes, kids, social media, usual day stuff. And then one afternoon, I realize, bam, I have been hacked. My bank account? Yep. Social media? Yep. Website? Yep. I could not change passwords quick enough. Don't even get me started. Turns out someone had accessed my passwords because I was pretty much using the same for nearly everything. Rookie mistake, I know. Long story short, it's been a hot mess. Literally hours, months, now year, and even legal steps have been taken. It has not been a great experience, but enter 1Password. If I'd been using this genius platform, none of that would have happened. 1Password stores all of your passwords securely and even helps you create super strong, hacker-proof passwords. Plus, it fills them in automatically for you. No more remembering a million passwords or, using password 1, 2, 3, 4 everywhere. Learn from my mishap and headache. Protect yourself from password chaos. Click the link in the description and sign up for 1Password right now, because seriously, your future self will thank you. Support this podcast by checking out 1Password. Trust me, no one wants to go through what I have. Heather Plett wrote this incredible book called The Art of Holding Space, a Practice of Love, Liberation, and Leadership. So she's exploring the concept of holding space, and that's in quotes. It's a practice of supporting others through emotional, difficult, or transformative experiences without trying to fix or control the outcome. And you can hold space for people in every area of life or every degree of connection, whether it's a stranger or if it's somebody such as a dear friendship that maybe no longer exists. You could still hold that holy space, the space that took up this beautiful friendship, and just let it be. And that book was very, she says, transformative. For me, it was transformative. It got me to this state and place of acceptance, bartering. And I think that's the part where I was talking about, like, trying to fix, in your head, you're trying to, what if I should have, but acceptance doesn't make it less challenging. And I wanted to go there and let you know that it is a death. There's a death. There's a death of a lot of things. And if that's something you've experienced before, then I hear you and I see you for sure there. It's not easy, but the love and appreciation and admiration that I have for them doesn't dissipate or go away. And I want the greatest of things for them. And I'm sure you feel the same way about your circumstance, situation. And it wasn't because of, like a fist fight that there's a disillusion, or it wasn't because of I kicked their cat. I mean, it wasn't anything like that. Things just, when you stop marching in a certain order together, perhaps, I don't know. I mean, and that is, perhaps there's no reason to even speak to that, because that's just some things are, they're not you don't figure stuff. You can't figure everything out. I can't sit and look at a blueprint on how to build a house. I guess I technically could. That's an arguable thing, but right in this moment, I can't just open up blueprints and be like, oh, okay, well, this goes here. Yeah, I wish them well. And I hope that there's some, you never know, but being in your 30s, meeting friends, I might as well try to build a house on my own. I can. It doesn't take me a long time to figure that out. And people in their 30s are more than likely, they're married and have kids, and you're busy, and life is busy. It's not like there's speed dating for friends. Is there speed dating for friends? I don't. But I am one of those people that likes to be around people. And my job actually takes that away in a lot of areas, because I'm creating content every day, all the time. And you're in your studio, you're in your space, and you have your head down, you look up, and it's dark out. And I don't go to bars or clubs or things like that. And you can't talk in the movie theater, because then I get booed and kicked out. But yeah, that's what's been going on in my world. Maybe that hits. Maybe that resonates for you. Here is the part of the podcast where I'm going to tell you a very creepy and true story. I don't know if you've ever heard of this story. The reason why I'm typing this is I'm just trying to find it. Okay. This is also in Kentucky. Jeremy, get your pen and paper out. Maybe you have on your bucket list a plan to come here. Now, have you ever heard of the legend of the Goat Man in Fisherville, Kentucky? This is very true as far as all of the stories surrounding. And if you don't believe in this stuff and you think it's a bunch of woo-woo, I still think that you'll find this interesting. Why is this in here, Nathan? I love ghosts stories. I love the paranormal because, let me tell you why. I love the paranormal because everyone can kind of relate to it. We are a people that want to know why, how, what things, how this all happens, what is, and we want to figure everything out. It's what probably brought you and made you search and find me. You came for the funerals, you stayed for the music. Right after a pandemic, you all were grieving. We wanted to know, because we've lost so much, whether it be a will or a job or money or desire, a loved one, most importantly. And you all stumbled upon me, and maybe you found the music afterwards. And anyway, I'm grateful for that. But you all came because you want to know. We want to know why. And that's the beauty of the paranormal. So whether you believe or not, I think everybody underlying has this desire to have an answer for it. But the Goat Man in Fisherville, Kentucky. In the quiet rural town of Fisherville, there exists this legend that's pretty eerie, and it sends chills down the spines of locals and curious visitors. Locals are very much mortified by this. Teenagers really, from an interview, I'll get to that. This is the story of the Goat Man. It is said to roam the dense woods around Pope Lick Creek, near the infamous Pope Lick Trestle. Trestle is a bridge that a train goes, and it's operated by northwestern southern, one of the train places. Okay. Train companies, places. While there are many variations of the tale, the most unsettling version of the Goat Man has been passed down for generations. So the origins of the Goat Man is a half man, half goat hybrid with a human torso, twisted horns, and the hooves of a goat. So it's kind of like a minotaur, sort of, but some say it was once a sideshow performer who was part of a traveling circus that met a tragic end in the area. The Goat Man, subjected to cruel experiments and mistreatment, escaped into the wild after a freak accident and has been hiding in the woods ever since. Now, that might sound ridiculous, I get it, but here, just listen, keep listening. Others claim that the Goat Man is a product of a dark ritual gone horribly wrong, an unholy creature, born of evil intent, cursed to haunt the area. Again, may sound ridiculous, but there's been a lot of stuff that has happened. The haunting at Pope Lick Trestle. So the trestle, again, is a bridge just wide enough for a train, like a big locomotive. And roughly 35 trains pass this a day. It's up about 100 feet into the air. And it looks like it's about to just crumble to pieces. It's all rusted, the metal support beams. So the Goat Man is said to haunt the towering Pope Lick Trestle. It's a railroad bridge that stretches ominously over Pope Lick Creek. It is here, under the cover of night, that many claim to have seen the Goat Man lurking in the shadows or climbing along the rails. However, the creature does more than just hide. Legend has it that the Goat Man has the power to lure people to their deaths. The creature reportedly uses mimicry to call out the passerby, imitating the voices of a loved one or mimicking a cry for help. It beckons curious souls up onto the trestle bridge, where the narrow and treacherous path leaves no escape from oncoming trains. The bridge is so high and narrow that those caught there often fall to their deaths trying to escape or are struck by the train itself. To this day, locals warn against wandering too close to the trestle, especially after dark, lest you fall prey to the Goat Man's call. So if you aren't putting two and two together, people, obviously the Jeremys of the world, would go and they want to see for themselves or go up there and walk a little ways onto the trestle, this bridge. Now, if you've ever seen a train track, you have the steel beams where the train's wheels, if you will, are on. And then you have the wood that is underneath, right? So there's gaps in between that. So just picture that suspended into the air. And there is not a walking bridge of any kind on either side. So when the train is there, it's just the train. And it's dark out when most people are going, right? So one of the most terrifying encounters took place in the 80s. A group of local teenagers curious about the legend decided to explore the area around Pope Lick Trestle. Armed with flashlights, they wandered into the woods, laughing off the tales as mere superstition. But as they approached the trestle, a low, unnatural bleating echoed through the trees. At first, they thought it was just a goat, but the sound became more distorted, like a mix between a goat's call and the scream of a man in agony. And one girl in an interview, she said, and I am a visual person, but in this instance, I can hear it because she said it's almost that of an auto-tuned cow moo noise. And that might sound weird because a cow goes moo, but it had this T-Pain sound-esque to it. Sounds weird too, but maybe I can hear that in my head. Suddenly they heard a voice, the voice of one of their friends who had stayed back at the car. It called out for help, insisting they come back. But when they turned to go back, they were met with nothing but darkness. The voice seemed to shift, coming from ahead now, the opposite side, near the trestle. Confused and unnerved, they ventured closer, only to see a shadowy figure lurking on the bridge. One of the teenagers swore he saw glowing red eyes peering down at them from the trestle. And then it happened. A train whistle blew in the distance, and the figure began to move toward them, climbing down the side of the trestle with terrifying speed. In a panic, they fled, stumbling through the woods, but the sound of heavy hooves crashing through the underbrush followed them, growing louder with every step. When they finally reached the safety of their car, panting and terrified, they sped off without looking back. Later, they discovered that one of their group had been missing for hours, only to be found later near the base of the trestle. Trembling and in shock, he claimed he had been called to the trestle by a voice he could not resist and had only narrowly escaped the goatman's grasp. Yeah. Others say that the eyes that you heard that were red, but then the eyes themselves that lure these people are said to then become the train, and it's too late. So the train runs at 35 miles per hour over the trestle. That is what an engineer who took it for 35 years and was retired from that train company, and they were in the front seat, 35 miles per hour. And in 35 years, he bore witness and has had therapy, extensive therapy. This is a mid-60s, late 60-year-old man, because he's hit 43 people. He said there is nothing like driving your train. Obviously, you cannot stop it. He goes, it's terrifying enough going over that because there's no side. Either side, they said that the train hangs off a foot on either side from the tracks because you have the base of. And there is no worse sight, he said, than seeing someone trying to outrun, turning, realizing that they can't, and that last moment they look right up at you before they're hit. He goes, I never saw the aftermath, nor wanted to, but 43 train strikes in 35 years. 43. And it's more than that. It's just him alone. So modern day sightings. Even today, people report strange sightings near Pope Lick. Hikers and thrill seekers have spoken of seeing a creature with horns and hooves watching them from the trees, or hearing the eerie bleat of a goat just as a train approaches. Some have claimed to feel an invisible force pulling them toward the trestle, as though the goat man were still hungry for more victims. Locals in Fisherville advise everyone to stay far away from the Pope Lick trestle, especially at night. The goatman, they say, is always watching, waiting for their next chance. There is now a goatman's festival to which the townspeople, just in 2019, there was a young girl named Savannah, and she went up on the trestle. Her best friend, she had sent her a snap, and she died. She was hit by a train, and she knew about it. She lived there because I don't know, but this festival, it does not in any way, in the person who puts the festival on, it brings tourist dollars, people from all over, because this is a very, people love the paranormal, and people travel, and actually this is their job. They travel across the world to come to these festivals to see for themselves, so to speak, to get the tours, to experience and gaze upon what a lot of people have really no explanation for why it happens. And there's a lot of course, frustration from the community because it's kind of like, don't push that button, don't push that button, don't push that button. And you have this red button right in front of you that they're telling you not to push. And that trestle, of course, is that the company has put up signs. They've actually tried to prosecute people. They've had prosecuted people for because it's private property. And it goes so far back as in the 1800s, you know, the settlers of early America were right outside of Louisville, Kentucky. That's where Fisherville is. And a lot of it was very tumultuous because you had indigenous people and you know, Indians. And at first they said that the goatman was a spirit that was good and if there's anyone out there that adds stories that are, you know, more, I don't want to say solidified, but from the historical aspect, the actual history of, you know, not only our country, but in this area, I'm going by what a local was talking about from a historical standpoint, but there was somehow, some way that became obviously over land and livestock, and you have your Native Americans and Indians, I guess, indigenous at this time, were fighting to try to protect. And then it became this very negative thing. And that's where it kind of became more sinister. It's just fascinating because energy is real. You cannot argue that. And manifesting is real, which is energy. And I'm going to win a Grammy. I'm going to win a Grammy. I'm going to win a Grammy. I'm saying all that because first that's a very quick transition from Goatman to, if you think it's going to happen. So if you think positive of yourself and of your situation and circumstance, then that is going to continue to produce positive results. If you are thinking negative or that you're stupid or ugly or fat or dumb or your hair's too long, then you will be all those things and your hair will be too long. I want you to think 5 positive things about yourself. Say them out loud because when you speak it into the universe, it's real. I'm going to win a Grammy. I'm going to have 1 million streams of a minute more. I am going to tour all of 2025 and all of you are going to come to a show. I am going to spend Christmas with my boys. I know we've covered a lot. Whether you've lost a friend or you're fighting for your family or you're trying not to go on the train trestle, don't do it. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. And one day this will all be just a distant, yucky memory, if you even think about it. But living in the future is anxiety. Living in the past is depression. Living in the present is peace. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for letting me share all this randomness with you. I know you could be anywhere else. Trust me. So your time and that you're offering it here means so much to me. Be sure to follow this podcast. Consider leaving a 5-star review wherever it is you stream and share it with a friend. And also, please follow me on all the socials. They're linked below. And I would be grateful for you to pre-save a minute more. If you're a romantic and you believe in love, not because Cher said so, but romance is real. I believe in it. You matter. This is 206. See ya. Bum, bum, bum.